welcome to our podcast, everybody. This is everything to do with NLP with Jacci and Lou. This is where we're going to talk about it. Enjoy the very first of our podcasts. So I'm Jacci.
I'm Lou.
And we're just going to talk about some stuff about NLP. What are we going to talk about today, Lou?
I think today we better start with, I guess, what was our introduction to NLP? How did we begin that journey? Because yours was by accident, wasn't it? Many years ago.
Yeah, completely by accident. Yeah, as most things are in my life, completely by accident. I've got a life full of happy accidents. Yeah, it was by accident. And yours was more by design, I think.
It was, although it was something I'd avoided for quite a while. I'd skirted around the edges of it, and I knew that it was used within the sales training that I delivered, and a lot of the training I delivered within the bank when I was working there. Not labelled as NLP, but I recognised it. And the very first experience I had of it as a delegate was really off-putting because it wasn't used very well at all. And it left me in quite a vulnerable position. So I was like, not so sure about this now. And then when I did my ILM coaching qualification, part of that was face-to-face delivery. And I saw it used, the same technique used brilliantly.
Wow.
It was just so elegant, so powerful, so ecological. I mean, the welfare of everybody was just managed so beautifully. And it was then that I saw this is the missing piece for me.
Yeah.
This is coaching for years and coaching really effectively for years, but always felt that there was something else that was needed within it. And that was it. So I then signed up for my practitioner.
Yeah.
Back in 2000.
Have you done any reading about NLP? Have you read any of those NLP books?
No. I like to experience something to feel, if it's right for me. So now after I'd had that bad experience, which raised a few alarm bells, then I had a really good experience and thought, okay, so like most things in life, NLP just is what it is. It can be used well or badly.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I know, as you like to say, we do Jedi, not the dark side.
Exactly. We are Jedi, not Darth Vader.
There we are. And having seen how powerful it could be when it's used well, when it's used ecologically, that then for me was the light bulb that said, this is what I felt has been missing from my life, but also from the coaching that I offer.
Yeah.
And well, life-changing. I did my practitioner and immediately started to do lots of inner work that released limiting beliefs that had been there for years, for as long as I could remember, that felt such an integral part of me that I thought, how could I let this go? But it did. It completely changed how I coach and enabled me to support clients in making those changes at a much deeper level, so that the changes they want were really happening at the unconscious level rather than just on the surface.
Yeah.
So my clients were getting so much more out of it. And then I always think NLP reminds me of Oliver Twist, because I just turned into, please, sir, can I have some more? So then it was the master practitioner, which absolutely gives you more content, but it also takes you to that level where you can, I guess, start to play with it a bit. You're not sticking rigidly to models. You can start to use things in a more flexible way, I guess in a more holistic way that suits who you're working with. That
I mean,
also led on to hypnotherapy.
sticking to the patterns themselves when you
Oh
first
yeah,
learning it is absolutely important. But it's just like
absolutely.
anything else, isn't it? It's just like following your favorite recipe.
Yeah.
After a while, you don't have to look in the cookbook anymore.
Yeah, and if I'm doing a new cake, I'm going to bake a new cake. I will follow the recipe to the letter, even if I'm
Yeah, me
looking at
too.
it thinking, I'm not too sure about that. No,
Yeah,
follow the recipe.
yeah,
And it's after I've done that and seen the results that I'll think, okay, now I can tweak this a little bit
yeah.
and
You
tweak
can
that a
trust the
little bit.
process first, and then you can
Yeah.
play with it.
So that then led on to hypnotherapy and then ultimately on to timeline therapy as well, doing that this year, and of course last year doing my trainer training. So
Yeah.
it's completely changed how I approach training, how I approach coaching,
Mm.
every aspect of my
Well, it
life. It's
does.
impacted everything. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know this for me as well over the last 18 months. Without NLP, I wouldn't have been able to undo all the damage that was done through slimming clubs in terms of really unhelpful eating habits
Yeah.
and end up releasing 7 stone now and
I know.
continue, and all of the things that's enabled me to do on a day-to-day basis, just mind-blowing.
It is.
And I've also had to use some NLP techniques to help me cope with all of those changes as well, because
Mm.
whilst they're all brilliant, they can be a bit overwhelming and a bit scary at times. So
Yeah.
it's helped me get there, but it's also helped me cope with it and adjust my life and patterns now. So I just love it.
It's once you've learned it and once you're using it, and this is my experience using it for my own personal development and for how I communicate, then it becomes impossible to do it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because why would you? Why would you not use what is such an amazing technology that just makes me calm?
Yeah.
Just means that I'm in control. It means that I can make choices and decisions that I'm happy with. I do get times of anxiety, just like everybody else.
Absolutely.
I'm not turned into some kind of strange indoctrinated superwoman. In no way, just like everybody else. I
But
lose my temper, but I've got different choices.
you make more of a conscious choice, don't you? I
Yeah,
think.
and it's the awareness. Yeah,
Yeah. And
completely.
that was really evident to me when I was traveling to France last year.
Mm.
And I had hadn't even got over to France. I'm driving down Dartford crossing, huge tailback, and the biggest articulated lorry I've ever seen in my life decided to try and occupy the same space as the car.
Mm.
Laws of physics don't work that way. So there was a
No.
bit of a and we sort of got out and kept looking up and up and up at this big lorry, which I then noticed as well was a foreign lorry, and the
Mm.
driver didn't speak English. And I could just feel all of that anxiety. I could feel my chest tightening, that sick feeling.
Yeah.
Is my car going to be okay? Are we going to be able to carry on with this? Everything just flooding in. And it was choose. What's going to be the most helpful thing for you right now? Breathe.
Mm.
And then I chose how I could react, how I would react in that situation and deal with what was in front of me.
Yeah.
And that was fine. Then when I eventually got to the hotel and had a journey that took about 4 times as long as been originally planned and was somewhat stressful, when I got into the hotel in Calais, plonked down on the bed and promptly burst into tears because that was the best thing that was going to be the most helpful thing for me to do at that time. But it wouldn't have been helpful with the articulated lorry driver. Yeah.
No.
So it's not about avoiding your feelings, is it? It's about
No, not at
choosing
all.
when it's going to be helpful. So is this the most helpful thing for me now? If it's not, then okay, what will be? And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to experience that. I needed to let all of that out.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
at a time where it was most helpful, and that was in the quiet of
exactly.
the hotel room. Mm.
I think it's one of the most fundamental and powerful things that I've certainly learned through NLP is that it's not about becoming this virtuous, eternally happy person that's always in a state of nirvana, or becoming that happy clappy hippie, which was
Oh,
always that was my like first thoughts. You
no, that
talk
was your
about
horror, wasn't it? No, I'm not going to be a happy clappy hippie.
no, no. And going back to your first experiences of when you first started to learn NLP and it wasn't particularly good and your journey was slightly different to mine. I fell upon it by accident because I was actually looking for a hypnotherapist who turned out to be an NLP master practitioner. And it was only because it was written on his card that I asked the question, so what's that? And got the answer and realised it's the thing I've been looking for quite some time. Why we're all different, learning a different communication. And that first day that I went into that first training on my own, because I just decided to sign up and do it, I just got the impression that so many nice, calm, happy people were coming into the room.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wrote on a bit of paper and I keep it. Oh my God, the place is full of happy, clappy hippies. Because that was my first impression. But then, knowing what I know now about what NLP teaches you about awareness, that was my evidence procedure for what I thought was going to be happening.
Yeah.
And there I got the evidence. So, but after that, what I realized was it isn't about becoming a different person. It's about using so many more tools and using so much more yourself. And it's the emotional intelligence that you learn from it is just incredible.
Yeah.
Every emotion's available to you. You decide which one is more appropriate and useful for you in that moment. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
And that was my first experience, me thinking, oh my God, everybody's really happy. What's all that about? Do I really want to learn this stuff? Well, as time goes on, you think, yeah, actually, I should.
Yeah.
And I did my NLP practitioner back in 2002, I think it was. 2002. So I did the diploma practitioner all in one go. Purely really to use for work
Mm.
because contact center, team leader, sales team, mortgage advisors wanted some way of coaching people that wasn't a one size fits all like the grow
Yeah.
model and those kind of things. Something a bit more oomph, something that really I could tailor to the individual because that's how I managed people as individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I found it absolutely fantastic. I shared it with my peers. They used it as well. And it took me another, when did I do my master practitioner? Not till 2018, no, 2017. So it took me 15 years.
Yeah.
So you said, Oliver, please give me some more. I was like, okay, I've got a practitioner. I don't need anything else. Yes, come on. And it was giving me everything that I needed and more. I didn't feel
Yeah.
the need to go any further. And it wasn't until 15 years later that I thought, yeah, I'll do the master practitioner. I had actually initially been put off of it by some comments from one person that done the practitioner. And it sort of like sat in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And it did that thing that, once you once you've been given a piece of information that can put you off, it just sat there in the background. But then I thought, no, what's the worst that can happen? Come on, I'm going to do this now.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased I did because the master practitioner, I didn't think I needed to learn anymore doing practitioner. I was using it superbly. It was great. It was in my muscle. Didn't need any more. Then I got master practitioner. It was like,
My God.
this is amazing stuff. And now I'm learning so much more at such a depth and what helped was all the awareness that I'd learned as well. So,
Yeah.
all that noticing that you learn how to do. And then almost within less than 18 months, I went on to do the trainer.
And that's another layer of learning, isn't it? Because you
Huge.
you do your practitioner, which is amazing. You then bring in the master practitioner, which helps the practitioner knowledge sit and embed in a different way.
Yeah.
Then you do your trainer training, which then helps it move around and assimilate again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've both found, as we've been designing our own training this year to
Mm-hmm.
deliver practitioner and master practitioner, we're seeing more nuances and more
Yeah.
applications and finding new ways to apply it to ourselves and to frame it and new understandings within it. So it's just continuous learning, isn't it?
Yeah. And I've also had the opportunity to assist as well as a practitioner, to be able to assist on practitioner trainings.
Yeah, that's a
And
fabulous
you
experience.
exactly, you get to learn it again, you get to learn it with a bit more depth, and you get to support others in their learning.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I do some support in those assisting positions, I pick up something else that either I'd forgotten or actually I hadn't picked up the first time around anyway,
Yeah.
which you will naturally do. So yeah, and not only that, doing the assisting as well kind of confirms for you just how much you do know and how much you've learned and how far you come.
Yeah.
So there's always those extra learning opportunities as well.
Just fantastic.
Mm. So when it comes to NLP, if I was to um, say where I think it's had the biggest impact for me, I would have to say my personal relationships.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, it's supported my marriage, had some very difficult times, as many people do throughout their lives. But it's really helped me to support me, support my husband, support my children through situations that, come at you and you wouldn't have planned for. It's helped me communicate really nicely and clearly with my family. And it's really helped me support my grandchildren as well.
Yeah.
And
I know you
for
share
me,
an awful lot, don't you, with you have with your kids and your grandchildren,
yeah,
in terms of how they can approach situations and help them with their decision making and
mhm.
strategies. Yeah.
It just opens up a whole different layer of conversation where I can share insights and share ways of thinking. And I absolutely love it when I'm conversationally providing some information and a little light bulb goes on.
Yeah.
You can see when a little light bulb goes on. I know that I've had a positive impact on a situation that they're going to have to deal with themselves, but I've supported them in thinking slightly differently. And it's like,
It's a increasing the toolkit, isn't it? I mean, when you think about the power of our brain, that's capable of more than we can possibly imagine.
mm, mm.
Yet we're never taught how to use it.
No, no,
You
no.
know,
That's
it's
it.
like getting this really fabulous computer, but nobody's given you any instructions.
Yep.
So, like, well, what do I do then? So you mess around with it and you find your way and you do bits, but you're not using it to anywhere near its potential.
No, no.
If you had an instruction manual that helped you understand how it works, everything starts falling into place.
Yep. And
Those
that's what I
those
love about it.
conversations that you've had in the past where it's been, well, I don't know why he doesn't just say that. Why can't you just say, through
You know why I
NLP,
can't say.
you absolutely understand why he can't say that because that's not
Mm-hmm,
how his brain works. You
mm-hmm,
know that to get through, you have to use different words, a different representational system that's going to work for them. Our strategies in terms of, I never thought about strategies that, do a learning strategy, a motivation strategy, a book buying strategy, which I have had to to rework. My book buying strategy missed out a critical piece of, do I really need another book? Am
Because
I
you go
actually
straight
going
from
to
see
read
book
this
by
book?
book.
Yeah, I just went, see book, that looks nice, buy book. It'll look nice on the shelf. So now I don't impulsively buy books
Mm,
because I changed that strategy. through NLP.
Yeah.
You know, it's thinking about eating habits, the strategies for different elements. So, okay, so what's happening at the start of that? What's the trigger? What's the process? I can see what's missing now. I can see what I could add in that would be more helpful, what I can take out that isn't as helpful. And that's one of the things I've really loved about NLP is that it doesn't talk about good and bad, right and wrong. Is it helpful? Is it useful? Is it not? If it's not, let's try and find something that's more helpful.
Yeah, exactly. There's no judgment in there at all. No judgment whatsoever. It's just about having the tools to be able to maximize the possibility.
And, you know, my biggest regret, I guess, with NLP is that I didn't start it earlier, that I didn't have this when I was with the bank, when I was dealing with stakeholders, when I was training, just when I was in sales, all of it, every role within my career with the bank, I look at and think, oh my God, this would have made all of the challenges I've had, or where things didn't quite work out the way I wanted. This has all the answers. This has the way I would do it now.
Yes.
And so much more effective. But, you know, we come to these things at the time that's right for us.
Yeah. I would have loved to have had this much earlier during my school years.
Oh.
You know, during my school years, if I'd had even the smallest bit of useful NLP that helped me understand how I could think differently, how I could work differently, then it would have had an enormous difference in my choices going forward. I did, thankfully, already know NLP when I was training for the bank that I worked for. And when I was designing training, absolutely really helped. And when I was managing stakeholders, oh my word, my stakeholder management was brilliant. It was so good, if I say so myself, because I was able to work with a bunch of stakeholders in a project and know what was important to them and really be able to connect what it is that I was doing with what they needed. And it just meant that everything ran so much smoother than if I hadn't have had that.
It takes the hard work out of things.
Yeah.
You know, as it you say, like, you don't mind working hard, but you don't like hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it takes that hard work element out of it. These things that are just, oh gosh, you know, building a relationship with X or Y is just hard work. Actually, it's not when you have NLP.
It's not. If your experience of project management is the same as mine, then you will quite often have a group of people come together, and there would always be one person in that project group that others would say, that person is impossible to work with. They're really going to give you a hard time. You're not going to get what you need and what you want from that person easily. They're going to put up lots of barriers. And I'd go, because I knew that I was going to be able to work with that person. I knew that I could have a conversation with them, set out my stall, listen to them, talk to them in a way that meant that I could get to understand what was important to them. I would be able to notice what their skills are and what their fears are and what they needed from the project, and be flexible enough to do that for them. As soon as I was doing that, I never had a problem from that person.
And imagine that same scenario without the NLP.
Yeah.
That relationship being set up in that way. It's like, oh my God. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you do get people in our lives that can be very difficult to work with, difficult to live with, difficult to be with.
Yeah.
And NLP just teaches you a way to communicate and connect with them in a way that's compassionate, that's easy, it's just good for everything, good for everybody. And here I am sitting here, sounding like a happy clappy hippie.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're
But
going to get your guitar out in a minute, aren't you?
Why would you not want to live with harmony?
Yeah.
With everybody around you.
Yeah.
Why would you not
And
want it?
I find that it really helped me step back and take responsibility.
Oh my word, yes. Because that's absolutely at the core of it, taking that personal responsibility. Totally.
And you know, as I look back over some of those stakeholder relationships, colleague relationships, and look at those that weren't necessarily so effective, I could look now and say, instead of looking at it and that person was difficult, it was like, actually, now I would be able to communicate in a way that worked better for them, that helped them deliver what was needed.
Yeah.
And that's down to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I found that really empowering. And I know sometimes, and we're going to talk about some of these things in later podcasts, but cause and effect and being at cause can often be seen initially as quite judgmental, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but you're responsible for everything that happens. Not in the sense that you caused that specific thing to happen, but you're responsible for how you react to it.
Yeah.
You're responsible for how you choose to behave and respond. And that is incredibly liberating and empowering to accept that I'm in charge
Mm.
and I have everything I need in here to deliver the outcome I want. Okay, so those parameters have changed, or COVID's happened, or whatever it is. How do I flex my approach? And it really helped me focus in on what I can, what's within my influence.
Yeah. What
And
can
by
you do?
doing that, actually starting to extend what was within my influence.
Yeah.
And
And you can influence a huge amount,
yeah,
because you not only you start off by influencing yourself, by taking that responsibility, by having that raft of choices, by trying them on, experimenting,
yeah,
seeing
play
how
with
it
it.
comes out, and then extending that and extending that and extending that until you get to the point where actually you realize that you're influencing everything. You have influence over everything, which means that not only do you have the power to influence it, and this is where ecology comes into it, and being a Jedi and not a Darth Vader, just because you have that power, the ultimate power to influence all, means you need to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, in the right way, with the right context, with the pure of heart,
Yeah.
and that you're doing it for the overall good.
Yeah. And it is that intention, isn't it, that makes the difference between, are we having a positive influence or are we manipulating? And that all comes back to intention.
Yeah. And that's why we're accredited. That's why we
Yeah.
are under the umbrellas of ABNLP and INELPTA, because it's all about that purity of intention, making sure we're doing it for the right reasons, being the Jedis, and because it's extremely powerful, the things that you can learn through understanding NLP, understanding ourselves. Once you start to be able to tinker about with your own mind and apply that understanding to other people's situations as well, you have in your hands a huge amount of responsibility.
Yeah.
So you do need to know that you are responsible and be very happy to take that responsibility. Yeah, completely.
Absolutely.
And that's why accredited bodies are so important in NLP.
They are, because, you know, like well, as with coaching as well, there isn't a governing body as such. So it's always important to make sure that, you know, if you go to an NLP coach, if you're having NLP training, that you make sure that they are accredited.
Yeah,
that they are part of one of the top boards. And, you know, I think the two biggest are ABNLP and INELPTA.
Because we would absolutely acknowledge there's some really poor practice out there.
Oh, God, yeah. And I think we've probably both had experience where we've had to undo some damage that's been done by some poor practitioners. this isn't and I know they're available, but this isn't a pay your 25 quid online and you get a certificate and now you're a practitioner.
Mm.
You know, we offer two different approaches in our NLP training, and we'll incorporate pre-course work and online learning. But there is still, I think, a minimum of 120 hours
Yeah.
that needs to be completed. And most of that will still have to be, a lot of that will still have to be face to face, because
Yeah.
it's the assessment for gaining your certification isn't just about knowing the techniques.
Mm.
And the reason we have the face to face element is because we need to assess that you can carry them out, that
Yeah.
practically you could carry them out. We also need to assess your understanding of the ecology. And that comes from how you behave within that group and how you interact with your colleagues.
Yeah.
So you can't do that on a pure online
You
25 quid
can't.
certification. So
You can learn the principles, you can learn the
yeah, you can
techniques,
read
you
them
can
from a
learn
book.
all of that. You know, you can read a book. What it will never give you is the opportunity to practice it in a safe environment, supported by people who will be able to make sure that you're doing it with the right ecology, with the right techniques, that you're doing it with that non-judgmental way and taking responsibility for your impacts, and being able to see that over an extended period of time,
Yeah,
with a lot of um, exercises. You know, it's not about learning a lot of content. You do absorb and learn a huge amount of content when you're doing these courses, but you have an
absolutely. But
equal,
it's
if not
layered.
more, amount of time doing the actual
Yeah.
practical side and applying what you're doing
But it is
and being
layered, isn't
observed.
it? Because there's the philosophy, there's the knowledge, and then there's the doing, the
Yeah.
implementation.
Hmm.
And it follows that process through nicely.
Yeah.
It's occurred to me as we've been discussing this quite passionately, as we do, because we love talking about NLP. Um, get us in a room together, a bottle of wine and NLP, and that's us for
That's
days.
it. Yeah.
Well, until the wine runs out. We haven't actually said what NLP is.
Do you know what? That's absolutely true. NLP, neuro linguistic programming, kind of like does what it says on the tin.
Yeah,
If you can open the tin and say quite a long sentence, which is neuro linguistic programming. And yeah, so it's I was about to talk about neuroscience, because neuroscience has actually caught up with
yeah,
what NLP has discovered from the 1970s. And it is neuro, it's what happens in our brains, it is how our unconscious mind works. Linguistic, it's how our language actually influences everything we do. Programming, we are exactly that. We are all strategies. We are like a computer that's been
yeah,
programmed. Everything that we do has a program attached to it. So yes, neuro linguistic programming, to do with the brain, to do with how we talk, and to do with how we do stuff.
yeah,
And the fact that once you understand the whole process and systems, which is what the NLP learning is, you then have all of the ability to use it. My analogy for this is always, if you're a car and you learn how to drive your car, which is what you do whilst you're living, you're driving your car, and actually your brain is the engine. How many of us actually know how the engine works in our car? We get in our car, we've learned to drive, we drive our car
yeah,
everywhere. Do we know how that engine works? No, we trust that the engine knows what it needs to do.
yeah.
And when it goes a bit wrong, we take it to the garage, or we might tinker about with it a little bit ourselves. But essentially, that's a mystical thing that happens
It is.
underneath the bonnet. We put fuel in, turn it on, and it works. NLP makes you the mechanic of your own engine. And it means that you understand how it works, what you need to do to optimize its performance. You can actually understand when it's going wrong, exactly what is going wrong and what you need to do to change it, what
Yeah,
options you have. All of that. You become the mechanic of
yeah.
the brain and your own brain, and that's just amazing. So
And that in itself, I think, is it's forgiving.
mm,
It's self-forgiving, because we often look at these things that we do, or these bad habits, that there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
Actually, all of this is a pattern. Whatever habit it is, it's a pattern that has been imprinted and installed in your brain, in your computer at some point. And it just means that at the moment, the computer's running with a bit of a glitch.
Mm. Mm.
NLP gives it that software update,
Mm.
doesn't it,
Yep.
to
Yep.
help it all run smoothly.
Yep.
And there's so much that it's given me in terms of being a bit kinder to myself
Mm-hmm.
more than anything. But that kindness comes from understanding that my brain is just doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
I can change the program. I can pop a different disk in. I can do
Mm-hmm.
an update, software
Mm-hmm.
update. And when you know that and when you're comfortable doing that, it's like, hold your word. And, we're not happy, clappy hippies. I mean, that's not us by any stretch of the imagination. And it doesn't mean that we're all singing, all dancing jazz hands every day.
Mm-hmm.
We all have bad days. And
Yeah.
I think the difference is you and I consciously choose to feel that emotion.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be angry, I'm choosing to be angry because actually that's the most helpful thing for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
there might be times where I'll go into the garage and hurl magazines at the wall because the most helpful thing for me now is to just get it out.
Yeah.
Chosen that consciously, I can come back in and consciously choose a more flexible behavior that'll help me achieve the outcome I want.
Yeah. You make it sound so simple, though.
This is the thing. When
It
you know
actually,
it, it is.
it is. Exactly.
And you kind of, I found that a lot of the time I was like, how did I not know this?
Yeah. And
I don't know this already.
and that's been our experience as well when we've been on trainings and when we've run trainings.
Oh,
The number of times that you hear, why didn't I know this?
yeah.
This is so easy. Why didn't I know this?
And it's
So
wonderful, isn't it, when you see the light bulbs go on with the delegates. And I'm thinking particularly the last training we did, there were moments of, oh my God, all of that makes sense. Oh.
and I remember that exact reaction myself when I was learning NLP going, oh my God, that's it. Boom. And suddenly all of this okay, right. So that's what that's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge shift. Huge shift.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
interesting because it really helps you, I think, prioritize things as well. I mean, it massively helped me in terms of relationships and connecting with people. And also choosing which relationships I wanted to mend or improve. And I vividly remember doing it, and this was before I went on my practitioner, I was doing a perceptual positions activity, which is about resolving conflict between individuals. And I remember the feeling of having gone through that process and exercise of, actually, it doesn't even matter now. It's not important. I can just let it go. I don't actually need to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not something I'm going to continue with going forward. I can just let it go. So it helps you establish what's important to you, what you want to maintain, and what you're comfortable letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, well, and it's some of the things feel at the time so obvious.
Yeah.
How did I not know that I could choose to let that go?
Yeah.
But there's a way of being with it that it just brings it up to the awareness and the noticing and the conscious choice that's informed, I think, a lot of the time by the knowledge and experience of the unconscious mind but this is all too busy most times for us to hear it. But NLP allows you to notice more, to hear more, to access more of your resources, to make more informed choices.
I was having very much this conversation with somebody recently. They were spending a lot of time in the future and not in the here and now, which meant that they've experienced almost constant anxiety because of worrying about the future, because that's where their attention was constantly placed. What was going to happen, what might happen, what they anticipate will happen. None of us can tell the future, but when you're constantly thinking about it in a way that gives you anxiety, that's where this person was all the time. So just encouraging to be in the here and now means that anxiety can't exist, because unless something's actually happening to you here and now to cause you anxiety, if you're just paying attention to what's happening right now, here and now, the sound of the trees, the birds, the feel of the chair under my bum and all of that kind of stuff, it's impossible to be anxious because there isn't anything happening to me right now to cause any anxiety. So just knowing that you can use those kind of tools for yourself, and when I'm talking about it now, it sounds so simple. And as we know, Lou, it is really that easy.
You've got
It's
to
not
know
rocket
it.
science.
You've got to know it first, haven't you? And I think this is
You've
the
got to
thing
know it first. And that's when you go, how comes I didn't know this? How comes I didn't know that being in the future, worrying, is causing what's happening? Okay, if I don't do that and I do this instead.
And I think that, I mean, one of the things that I do get a little bit irked by are comments that, oh, it's just pseudoscience and there's nothing new in it. And it's like, well, no, there isn't anything new in it, because what it is, NLP came out of modeling excellence. It was about observing and modeling people who were excellent at what they did, that were above everybody else. What was it that they did differently? What was the difference that made the difference? And then taking all of that information and codifying it into strategies and processes that we can then apply across the board. So no, it's not new. It's not something in and of itself. It came out of excellence. And pseudoscience, well, I think neuroscience is now showing that.
Certainly, it's absolutely confirming everything that has been gleaned from that modelling process. And there is nothing new under the sun, because if we look back in some of the more ancient traditions, a lot of what we learn and know about how we operate in the world has already been alluded to if you go into the Vedic traditions and you go into Buddhism and you go into other areas. The parallels are stark. And neuroscience is absolutely now has worked out that what we've been talking about is actually true. The evidence is there, my lad.
Indeed. Thank you, Your Honour.
Indeed.
So if anybody wants to learn about NLP, what do they need to do, Jackie?
Well, we have several options for you, pot pickers. You can you can join us on our NLP boot camps. So we have regular sessions, generally one a month, on a particular NLP topic, where we share the understanding of that particular topic. You can learn a little bit of NLP, because a little bit of NLP goes a long way. So if you want to dip your toe in the water, you can always join a boot camp. You can also follow us on these podcasts, because we're going to be putting these out now very regularly, every couple of weeks, I think, on a particular topic. So you can just follow us, join us, comment, and get to understand a lot more about why we are so enthusiastic about NLP and learn some along the way. You can also join us for our trainings. So we are absolutely accredited under two bodies, as we've said. There's ABNLP and INELPTA. So we offer a variety of learning journeys that will give you a certificate, or as we say, my family, a sticky foot, at the end of your training, so that you have a sticky foot that says that you have a diploma or a practitioner or a master practitioner, whatever journey you want to go on and how you want to use it. The ways that we can share NLP with you are endless. You can contact us individually.
Yeah.
You can certainly talk to us at any time. Just drop us a line, see us on Facebook. You can see us on Instagram. You can see us on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. That was the one. And we might even
omnipresent.
all of these places. Yes. I might even look at Twitter. Who knows? You know, I'm pretty sure that, and we're going to be on YouTube as well.
Yes.
So
yes, our YouTube channel, NLP with Jacci and Lou.
Yeah, you can find us wherever. So, learning NLP, we can't advocate for it more. Join us on our next podcast.
Wonderful.
Don't know if we know exactly what it's about yet, but hey, it's
well, what we're doing, I think we may be looking at practicing and staying Jedi.
Yeah, always the Jedi.
Yeah. We might have sound effects.